Welcome to Hope is Here. We continue our conversation with Scott Harvey. We're talking about social media and photos. Yesterday, we spent the whole program talking about social media and what are some of the basic ways to keep our kids safe online and what are some of the more dangerous aspects of social media. If you're like, man, I wish I would have heard that, you can go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today and check that out. It'd be a really good 14 minutes worth of your time, or if you want to share it with somebody that's having challenges with their children in social media, you can share that. And you also follow us on Facebook. We're there, and on Twitter at Hope is Here, on Instagram at Hope is Here LEX. Well, Scott, let's talk about photos. When we grew up, we didn't have cell phones. Much less cell phones came out. You couldn't take pictures, but now kids, adults, everybody's big on photos. But why is photo sharing such a big problem with our kids today?
You know, I guess the biggest issue is the access to and the quality of the pictures that they're able to take. You know, when I was first started on the police department, we had cameras in every car. To take pictures of evidence, but they were the kind you had to load the film in the back of it, wind the film till you got to the first picture. You took, 12 or 24 pictures, and then you hoped 5 or 6 of those turned out. I was sharing a story at the police department a couple years ago about something that happened funny in training when I was in training, and one of the new recruits said, "Oh, I bet you have some good pictures, don't you?" I said, "No," because we had to stop the car, get the camera out of the trunk, load the film, take the pictures. We just didn't have every immediate access to cameras back then, and even when we took those pictures, they were low quality pictures. I mean, they just were, you couldn't take really professional photos with the cameras that we had back in the day. Today, the cameras that they all have in their pockets, and some of them on their smartwatches, depending upon the type of smartwatch they have, are really good resolution cameras that we didn't have access to. And so their life is documented in a way that ours was never documented, because it was a lot bigger deal to get the camera out and take pictures. And now, that allows them to kind of grow up on a stage that they didn't ask for. Their life is on display. And I have a lot of friends who really try to guard their kids' growing up years in the social media world, and they don't even call them by name. They might use a first initial or something like that. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I'm saying, we don't have any research to show what living on this stage of social media does to kids. And, the photos allow them to instantly, kind of chronicle their day and their life. And the problem is, the cameras are amazing, which means they catch every blemish and every hair that's out of place. And so now they Photoshop everything. These kids are Photoshop pros. At 10, 12 years old, they just Photoshop everything. My 14-year-old, probably about 6 months ago, she was going to share a picture on her Instagram, which is a huge deal. Instagram is the highlight reel of everybody's life. Unfortunately, as a user of Instagram, sometimes we see that picture and we compare it to our behind the scenes. John Acuff is an author and a speaker, and that's his quote. He said, "We compare their highlight reel to our behind the scenes, and we find ourselves lacking." Of course you do, because my 14-year-old took a professionally done photo that we had paid a photographer to do of her and her sister. And before she would share it on Instagram, she spent 20, 25 minutes applying the right filters, shading this, shading that. And I told her, I said, "Honey, we paid the professional photographer to do all of that. He produced an amazing product." She goes, I want to fix it. And then she spent 40 minutes on Pinterest trying to find a caption to sum up the photo. So this is an hour project of hers to share one photo. And so it creates an unrealistic expectation of what life is actually like. And it makes it hard for us to live up to the expectations we set for ourselves on our own social media. One of my daughter's good friends, who's an 8th grader, is started a hashtag called Make Insta Casual Again. And she is purposefully sharing photos without makeup. She is sharing, just snapshots of the day. To me, a truer sense of what life is actually like. And I hope that catches on, but I don't know that it will, because it's such a curated place for photo sharing. The photos, they just create a problem because, one, they're unrealistic. 2, they're too easy to produce. When we took pictures, we talked earlier, they had to take them to the photo development place, and you had to wait sometimes a week to get those photos back to see which ones turned out. And depending upon which photos they were, if they were vacation photos and you were in a swimsuit, you wouldn't even give them to the 1 hour photo dude, because then he would see you and your family in your swimsuits. You'd stop short at the counter, put them in an envelope, and send them off, because you didn't want that creepy guy looking at a picture of you in your swimsuit.
I used to work at a grocery store in college. I was that creepy guy.
I know.
I hate saying it, but that's true, man.
And from a law enforcement standpoint, we used to get calls from those photo people because they were actively looking for child pornography, which is good. And I'm glad that they did that. You'd have to be a special kind of stupid to take your child porn pictures to the local Walmart to have them developed, but it's happened. So that thing was in place, and now students are going into the bathroom of their school, and they're taking high-quality, inappropriate photos without an adult ever seeing them, and they're sending them to their boyfriend or girlfriend.
Well, Scott, you shared a story when I heard you speak at a middle school in Lexington recently about a young lady named Amanda, how one picture really it changed her life forever. Talk about that, if you don't mind.
It did. She got wrapped into an online situation where she ended up, flashing the camera. She was on a video chat situation. She flashed the camera. She was young and stupid, like we all were. We make poor decisions as teenagers. That's how we learn. But you and I's poor decisions weren't documented for the world. And that's the difference that we have today. And, she shared this photo. The guy that got the photo started pressuring her for more, started, threatening her, sending the photo out. This is the thing that I saw the most as a sergeant in the police department working in schools, is the pornographic photo sharing that our students are doing today. And I saw it as early as 11, 12 years old that this was happening, because they don't have the filter that we had of somebody else seeing the photos we took. They take them and they send them, and they think it's a secure way to share them. They think if I Snapchat it or something like that, they can't do anything with it. But, Snapchat does notify you if someone screenshots your snap. But you can't change it. They now have a copy of something you thought was going to be deleted. It's not deleted. They have that copy. But there's also third-party apps that you can download that will block all Snapchat notifications. So you could send me a snap. I could screenshot it. You would never get notified if I was using it through this third-party app. And so they think that they can share these photos without any consequences or being caught, so to speak. And unfortunately, in our world, that pornography has become so normalized that they just feel like this is the next logical step when I have a boyfriend or girlfriend. When you and I had a high school girlfriend, we would get a photo after school picture day. It'd be a really small one, and she'd try and write a paragraph on the back of it about how special we were, and it would go in that plastic insert in our wallet. And if we dated her for a long time, when we broke up, we had to get a new plastic insert because all that ink would transfer to the new one, and you couldn't just slide the new girlfriend's picture in there. Yep. Today, as soon as you're dating, it's not uncommon for them to ask for nudes like the next day. That's the photo sharing that's happening today. And you have to talk to your students about this, and you have to check their phone, because there are hidden photo vaults that will store these photos. One of the more popular ones is a calculator-based app that runs like a calculator until your student enters the right 6-digit combination of keys that will then make the calculator disappear and a hidden photo vault shows up. And the latest iteration of that, unfortunately, because it became so widely popular, people knew about this. The latest iteration, there are 2 codes that a student can enter. The first one opens safe for mom and dad photos, and the second one opens photos that you don't want anybody to see. And the problem being, they're on the device. We could hook it up to a state police crime lab computer within 5 minutes, pull every photo from your device, even the ones behind the hidden photo app. And if you have sent any of those through the internet, they bounced off a server before they went to their destination. And there's potentially a copy of that on a server somewhere. There's no such thing as online privacy. And when you start photo sharing, you believe it's a private way to share this kind of stuff. It's just not. And unfortunately, not all students are creating pornographic pictures of themselves. It's not every student, but they are creating photos that could get them into trouble. There have been times where a snap was sent in a sporting event from one team to another, And then that got screenshotted through Snapchat. It got shown to the officials, and there was some consequences at that sporting event. You just can't create these photos and send them without any hope of any kind of repercussions.
Well, one thing you shared also regarding this when I heard you speak last week is that, kids don't realize this, but when they're sending, nude photos and things, graphic photos, they're actually breaking the law.
They are. The statistics I share with students, because I believe with better information, students can make better choices. It always breaks my heart to have a student in tears after my show saying, I wish someone would have told me this 6 months ago. And I get that, but I tell you today, 86% of sexual pics meant for one person are shared. That means almost 90% of the time they're showing somebody else. And 44% of our high school boys have seen a pornographic picture of a classmate on their device. And I tell them, if the person in the pic is under the age of 18, when the pic was taken, it's child porn. And having it on your device is a federal felony offense. And if you show anybody that picture or send them their own copy, you're now distributing child pornography, which is a separate federal felony offense. And the law doesn't care if the person in the pic is your boyfriend or girlfriend. The law only cares if they were under 18 when the picture was taken, which means if you've had a picture of a 16-year-old and you've been dating her now for 3 years, she's now 19, but you still have these pics from 16, you're still in possession of child porn. Doesn't matter that she's 19. And there have been students criminally charged and registered as sex offenders for child porn before they ever graduate high school.
Wow. Well, I know there's parents out here listening go, Scott, how do you talk to your kids about the dangers of photo sharing?
I think you have to tell them that there is no such thing as private communication online. Even a text message, which we text family and friends all the time, if you and I are texting and I decide to, I could screenshot that text and upload it to Instagram. And I can give you credit for everything you said in that text conversation that you thought was going to be private is now for the world to see. So we have to be thinking about that before we ever put anything online. This could show up on the news. My parents could see this. My grandparents could see this. It's very, very possible. Everything we're communicating is going to the World Wide Web. And that's a microphone in our hand, in our phone, that reaches the world. And we have to be aware of that. And I think you have to have open and honest conversations with your kids. And my biggest tip to parents is to not freak out. When your kids were toddlers and they fell and hurt themselves and you knew you were bound for stitches that day, you're making jokes. You're telling them it's not a big deal. You're calming them down. Even though you're freaking out, you're doing everything you can to make light of the situation so that they won't freak out. When your kid comes to you to share a situation that got out of control online, think about when they were a toddler. And you need to not freak out so that they don't freak out, because you've got to be bigger than whatever situation they're dealing with. Otherwise, they won't come to you with stuff anymore. So you've just got to say, listen, we'll deal with this. Whatever it is, we'll get through this. I love you based on who you are, not what you do. It's never a performance-based issue with you. And we'll get through this. And they have to know that you're still bigger than anything that they're dealing with. So do not freak out. Once you turn it over to the authorities, if it gets that far or whatever, then in private you can freak out. Right. When my kids were little, I turned them over to the doctor. I went to the waiting room, and then I came unglued.
Yeah.
But up to then, we were cracking jokes.
Right. Great wisdom there. Wow. Well, we're out of time. If you want to find out more about these topics that Scott's talked about the past couple of days on social media and photos with your kid, go to his website, speakingofharvey.com. That's speakingofharvey, HARVEY.com. My name's Greg Horn. We'll see you next time on Hope is Here.
Taking care of Central Kentucky's floral needs for over 25 years, Creations by Karen features floral arrangements for every occasion, from anniversaries, corsages, Valentine's Day, as well as birthday gifts. You can count on Creations by Karen to deliver beautiful anniversary flowers, new baby gifts, bridal arrangements, or sympathy flowers. Contact them today at creationswithak.byKaren.net. That's creations-by-karen.net.